Good morning, YouTube. Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor. This fight, I found out actually a few hours ago that this fight is going to go down. I made a video on these two fighting before. I've talked on this before. I don't know if I really broke down the fight, but I did talk about the fight. Now that the fight is going to happen, they threw some monkeys. They threw some wrenches, some monkey wrenches in the mix. You know what I mean? Right in the motor. Cause man, this is kind of crazy. I'm gonna give you my initial reaction. I'm gonna give you like some factual information, and then I'm gonna give you like a positive outlook, my positive outlook on the fight. My initial reaction was, man, I was really disappointed to hear that this fight's taking place. I know everybody's really excited for it, but I'm not. I'm getting excited for it because, I'm a fan of fighting, and I want to be excited about fights. So that's where the optimistic part comes in. But the reason I'm disappointed is because it's terrible. It's terrible matchmaking. Basically, you're taking possibly the best mixed martial artist fighter in the world, at least record-wise. I mean, record-wise and performance-wise, Conor McGregor, he literally just seems to be on another level. I don't think that's necessarily true. I don't think Conor has a complete game. I think his ground game is horrible. I think he's going to get exposed. It's just a matter of time. And that's where I'm getting to the positive part about Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz could possibly. Now I have Nate Diaz as a huge underdog in this fight, and I at the betting odds, I guarantee you he's going to be a massive underdog against Conor, just because of the way Conor's performed and just everything he's done. But he may just completely get taken to school in the ground. He might end up on the ground, and Nate's gonna submit him. I mean, Nate's got killer submissions, and but I want to tell you why I was so disappointed to hear this fight. Then I hear, oh, they're fighting at 170. Okay, and I'm like, that's disappointing too, because it's not because Nate Diaz has been bulking up in the weight room and he can't make 155. He's not walking around. You see what I'm getting at? He's basically it's because he's fat and out of shape. He's fatter and out of shape. That's why he's not going to be at 155. He's not going to have time to diet down. He looked good against Michael Johnson. But now, he's going to show up looking soft, like when, he didn't, like remember when he fought Benson Henderson, he didn't look real lean. And so that's the thing, he doesn't strength train, he doesn't lift weights. And so when he's putting on weight, he's just ballooning up, retaining water, it's just, you know what I mean? So basically, you're going to get a heavier, stronger Conor McGregor against a fatter, more out of shape Nate Diaz. That's basically what's going to happen in this fight. And, that's a little bit disappointing, not to mention the mismatch of guys. If you got a guy that's ranked number 1 in the world against wherever the heck Nate Diaz is ranked, that rankings don't mean much, but Nate Diaz is not one of the top fighters in the division. I mean, he's been struggling in the division as of late. He won his last fight, but if you take that fight away, not only has he lost in the division, he looked terrible. I mean, he looked terrible against Benson Henderson. He looked terrible against Dos Anjos. Just didn't stand a chance against those guys. So, so I was really disappointed about that. But now that the fight, is taking place, I'm trying to be more optimistic about it. But and then another thing, it's good to see that Nate Diaz is going to get a huge payout. He's probably going to make $500,000 on this fight. And that's cool to see and everything. But guys, as fans of fighting, we don't really get anything from that. It's like You know, like Fedor came back and he's fighting in this Risen organization, and yeah, he's probably making a bunch of money, and you know, good for Fedor. I'm happy for the guy, but me as a fan, I don't get anything out of watching him fight in those fights because it's a mismatch, and it's even worse. You know, we're happy that they're making the money, but it's even worse. You know, I'm a fan of the Diaz brothers to watch them get these big paydays, and then they're going to lose. They're going to lose. Like watching Nick lose his last 2 fights. It's like, man, you know, I would have rather seen, and I honestly, truly believe that it's better for the sport if they put fights on with people that are at about the same level. Okay? You know, if someone's just something, have completely different clash of styles, but at least someone have about the same record. They have something in common. They're about the same age. You know, I don't like to see guys like 24 years old fighting some guy like 40 years old. And, you know, it's just like, that's a mismatch. It's a mismatch in age. It's a mismatch in a lot of things. Put guys in there that are similar levels. I think we get better fights out of that. And ultimately, I think the fighters, including Nate Diaz, will make more money if they perform well. If they look, you know what I mean? If he goes in there, if Nate Diaz goes in there, who really hasn't looked good this last couple of years, except for his last fight, you know, and if he gets just destroyed by Conor McGregor, I mean, or even, you know, knocked unconscious by Conor, you know, where's his career going? It's like, yeah, you just got this paycheck, but, you know, if he had been fighting somebody else and just won a good solid fight, you know, get a decent manager at least, you know, make a good payday. Maybe we get knockout of the night, maybe get performance of the night bonus, because a lot of it in the UFC, the way they pay is pretty cool because you get fight night bonuses. You see what I'm saying? Like when Conor came in the UFC, he made $8,000, I think, and $8,000 to show up and $8,000 to win, which would have been $16,000. But then he got like a $60,000 bonus for knockout of the night or fight of the night, something like that. Okay, so that's a big difference. There's a big difference between making $76,000 and making $16,000, and that's kind of how the UFC is. So that's what I'm saying with this. If you're getting a good paycheck, but you're like a sacrificial lamb, you know what I mean? It's like, I just feel like, man, if you perform well and you do well, you're going to make that same amount of money. Yeah, you'd have to fight more. I mean, obviously, he's going to take the fight for $500,000. Everybody wants to take that fight to make that kind of money and have the chance where, you know, you could possibly upset and beat Conor McGregor and it'd be this big ordeal. But guys, an upset win does not necessarily mean that you're any better than you were. You know what I mean? Like when Scott Smith beat Kung Lee, I mean, that's really cool to see, but that doesn't really put you in a different place. You know what I mean? It might move you up a little bit, but then if they have a rematch, you're most likely going to get destroyed. So, you know, I don't know, man. I just don't think that Nate Diaz is, I mean, I have a gut feeling that Nate Diaz could possibly submit Conor, because I do think Nate Diaz is at a different level on the ground, but I think it's more likely that he's going to get head kicked by Conor. I mean, Nate Diaz, he's just this horrible movement, and I think Conor's smart enough that he's not going to stand anywhere near Nate and just trade punches. And if they do trade punches, I don't think he's afraid of getting hit by Nate, because, you know, Conor hits extremely hard, man. He hits so hard. This guy just like hits guys and they're just done. I mean, he hits really hard. He's very precise. He doesn't waste punches. I mean, it doesn't take too many punches and guys are going to fall. Can Nate Diaz take more punches than these other guys? Probably he can. But he's very stationary, and I visualize just Conor just kicking him in the head. That's what I see. And it possibly, which I'm kind of rooting for, is that Nate submits him, and not a lucky submission, like literally, because Nate throws guys, and he's pulled off some wild submissions, man. I remember he choked out that one guy, and when he was choking him, his tongue was stuck between his teeth. Who the heck was that guy? Oh, Jim Miller. That was a nasty submission. I mean, he had him choking him. I don't know if you guys remember that. And Jim Miller's tongue had got caught in between his teeth while he was choking him. So Nate is wicked on the ground, man. And I do honestly believe that Conor, that's why I don't think Conor is the best martial artist in the world right now. I don't have him as number one, and I don't think he will be. He does not have a complete game. Now, whether you can beat him or not, that's a different story. I mean, it might be some time before someone beats him, but he does not have a complete game. He's not good. He's not awesome in all areas, and I really truly believe in MMA that is really important, because you might beat 90%, 95%, but you're 99%, but you're going to find that one person. You know what I mean? You really need to be better than everybody in all areas. Not like, but the thing is with Conor, he's way better. He's way better on the feet. He's way better with his movement. Okay, but the thing is, but then when you get to the ground game, goes the other way. He's actually not as good. Now, he's still all around way better because he's so much better in other areas, but in that one area on the ground, he's not better. He's not. He's just not, and he's going, at some point, he's going to spend more time on the ground, and he's going to get submitted, and I think that's going to be his downfall. I mean, I'm sure he's working on it, but anyway, guys, I mean, I'm trying to get excited for this fight, but I do think it's a terrible matchup. It's just stupid to take some guy that's ranked. Now, was Nate Diaz ranked? Is he even in the rankings list? He's probably like, I mean, last time I seen it, there was a long list of guys, and he was way the heck down there. I think that was before the Michael Johnson fight, but you know, it's like that. Why? It's just a terrible, terrible mismatch in matchmaking, and they're just blatantly saying that we're not even in shape enough, and it's a terrible. My brain would tell me that looking at out of shape Nate Diaz, that he's going to absolutely just get destroyed by Conor. He's a sacrificial lamb that they're throwing in there for Conor, and I don't like to see that. That being said, I'd like to see him beat Conor. I'm rooting for Nate Diaz, but I mean, I will be extremely shocked. But Nate can pull it off. He can pull it off. And that's why I'm going to be watching to see if he can. I'll see you guys later.